So if you could just support the pelvic sacral area on something soft, not to make any compression in the lower back. Elevate your legs up, just in any way that feels comfortable, and just place something under the neck so the upper spine feels, again, supported and soft and relaxed. Let your arms go wherever they will. If you need to cover yourself, just cover yourself, just so you can completely sink in and relax. And possibly, just a reminder, it's lovely to see everyone and to check in and say hello. But if you do have something that you want to share with me or discuss, just in terms of any of anything really, please feel free to contact me. I'm definitely open. I have the time to check in. So, please don't hesitate. I'm not really all that busy right now. So I'd like to begin just by sharing a short story with you. One of the things that I've been suggesting, actually for a while, sort of been coming out into the yoga, how I'm starting to directly apprehend and recognize and appreciate how powerful just life is as a teacher. So I would just like to share this particular teaching that I got from, I was going to say from lemons, but from a lack of lemons. So I was in the grocery store the other day, and there was a young lady who was after some lemons, and there were no lemons. And I could tell she was just outwardly angry that there were no lemons. And it was one of those moments, sort of one of those moments when the film stops and you just see this still clip. And I just took it in. I took it in, just many things I took in. And then maybe 4 or 5 minutes later, I passed her again. I was in the same store, and she was talking to a friend about the lack of lemons, and just this anger being projected out towards this lack of lemons. And so much of me wanted to just invite her to sit down and come into a gentle yoga pose and just explore this. So instead, I came home and I explored it myself. I just held this image and this energy of my own needing to project and often believe that what I'm angry about is outside of me. This certainty, depending what it is, maybe for me, not lemons, but something that I'm just certain that the anger is outside of me. And I just sat and I allowed my breath to pervade my beingness, and I just relaxed and I just let life come in. I just let the flow of life come in, and just sat with this realization that the anger doesn't come from outside, it comes from inside. That the lemons or the lack of lemons could care less. The lemons are not angry. So I'm using anger because I had this specific experience with it, but certainly we could use any strong emotion, judgment or fear, insecurity, and be almost certain, yes, some of it is just habitual, that it's coming from the outside. The invitation, the teaching of yoga is saying it's coming from the inside. So we get to, we don't need to fix it. We don't need a theory about it. We don't need an excuse. We don't need to superimpose guilt upon it or any kind of self-judgment, but we simply get to sit with this feeling, let's say this feeling of anger, and look at it deeply, listen to it deeply, and be open to understanding it. So we begin to understand that our yoga is not simply this relatively short time. We come on our mat, and we come into different postures, and we somehow open the physical channels and feel better, and then just go right back into the habits of life. Life itself is giving us all the time, is offering us these simple yet profound lessons. So this is what we sit with. We relax into a sense of stillness. And just become consciously one with this flow of life. And this conscious union with life, with this guru, is really yoga. Conscious union is yoga. So while we're in this restorative position, I would just simply like to invite you to bring your awareness to your breathing. And we have many, many options, many perspectives to explore our breath, especially in this slow meditative practice. But what I would like you to do, I'd like to bring your attention to the breath in relation to the exhalation. So what I would like you to do is start to exhale, and just exhale as long as you'd like. See if you can go to the end of the exhale, and then don't put any effort into the inhale. Just let the inhale happen naturally. And one of the things we can notice from this is how we will often, when we're invited to breathe, we inhale, and then we lose track of or lose awareness of the depth of the exhalation. So I'd like you to just take a few breaths here and feel that the exhalation is actually preparing for the inhale, and we don't really have to do anything to the inhale. And do this in a sense of exploring. Do this in a sense of being curious about this this aspect of the breathing that we very seldom, genuinely explore or feel. And certainly not to force the exhale, but really feel it. Really feel that there's an energy there. There's a transitional place at the end of the exhale where then it informs, it prepares for the inhale. But do nothing to the inhale. Just let the exhalation start to feel more of your energy and attention. This is from the Anam Cara by John O'Donohue. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the crutch of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. You relax and feel, listen. Your tissues are breathing. Your brain is filled with light. Your heart is vibrating. Good. So let us come on up, please. Just slowly work yourself up. No rush. Just take your time. And on Wednesday, I worked with the jaw a little bit. I did an offset opening. And I said I was going to connect the jaw with the ankles and the metatarsals and the toes, and I never got to that. So we're going to start with that. So go very gently with this. If you're on a relatively hard surface, then you may want some softening for your feet. I'll show you what we're going to do. And you could typically use, I typically do this with the large bolster. So if you have the large bolster, you can put it here. But for those that don't have this yet, I will demonstrate this with just these nice pillows. So about this height is good. I'm going to switch this pillow for this pillow. And, try not to shudder at this. And unless you have something severe injury-wise, we don't have to completely avoid it. And I'll show you how we can release out of it so you can ease in and out of it so we don't have to feel unsafe or like we're going to come into injury. But this area of the body, very worthy to keep supple and open because it connects to the knee, which is connecting to this core area of the body. So what we're going to do, I'll show you the position for the ankles first, is we're going to not curl the toes back. So I'll place my arches of my feet on this nice soft blanket. And then I'm going to place the knees up onto my bolstering. So this is plenty. This is very nice with the pillows. You don't need to come up any further. I can show you how to go a little bit deeper if you would like. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting the torso hip weight onto the heels here. Yeah, I'm just sitting on my heels. So it's compressing primarily into my ankle, all of this weight into the ankle. If this becomes not tolerable or dangerous for you, the way to come out of it is just to come forward. So the more I come forward, even if I just come all the way to here, even for my knees, I'm releasing tension. Yeah, I'm releasing tension. Yeah. So this is where we'll be for a bit. Feel free to come out of the jaw opener and release the tension whenever you need to do that. Okay, good. So establish that position. And I'll just face you this way. So what we're going to do here is find the bottom of the jaw. Yeah. So there's a bone here from this jaw muscle down. Yeah. So we're not just placing on the cheeks. You want to find that bone, that jawbone. Yep. And then we're going to use the heel of the palm, the heel of the palms, and we're going to place them on that jawbone. So I can't really, if I press in just a little bit, I can't slide down because the jawbone is there. Yeah. So what we're not doing is we're not putting a lot of pressure to press in like that. We're gently, you can let the fingers rest on the head. What we're going to gently do is apply a little bit pressure in, just a little bit, gentle, let the mouth open and gently pull down. So you're using the heel of the palm to pull both of these jawbones down. Gentle, so you can maintain it. I'm going to actually time it so we don't stay here. Well, I'm going to say too long, but I don't really think there's too long in the end. But just kind of play with it. If you need to release it a little bit or you need to go side to side, but if you feel like you're holding the teeth together, we must relax that upper jaw from the bottom jaw. Relax your tongue and just a gentle inward and downward pressure. If you find that the palms are slipping, then just bring them up a bit, reestablish the heel of the palm on the lower jaw bone. If you feel like this becomes unsafe or intolerable in the ankle, you could just come forward a bit. So you'll have to release this, obviously, but just stay with this. And the imagery I would like you to share with yourself is just that the connection through these fascial lines, through this connective tissue, is reverberating from your toes, your metatarsal arches, your ankles, your knees, right up into the tension in the jaw and the neck and the shoulders. So we just imagine that the whole body is feeling, is pulsating, is vibrating. Don't allow your breath to get too tight, too constricted. Relax your breathing. Even with the mouth open this way, you still can breathe through the nose if you would like, but don't worry so much about the breathing. Just don't let it reflect too much tension. Let the breath keep relaxing and slowing. Just feel this compression of the jaw into the jaw muscle, into the face. Good. So you can release the hands now. And if you want to just let the head just roll around intuitively, you can open the jaw, move it side to side, stretch the muscles of the face. And then depending how you're feeling, if you still have the knees, if you do still have the knees up on the bolstering and you'd like to just dip in a little bit deeper, you can put your fingers on either side of the body on the floor and bring the knees up. Yeah, so this isn't quite for everyone, but we want to work into this slowly. And then what we do here is if we bring the knees up and the body forward, we're working much more into the arches. If we let the knees go down and bring the upper body back, this is more into the ankles. Yeah, so just right at the end here, if you want to kind of soften in and out a little bit, you may already be out, that's fine. And then we'll bring this down. And then let's come forward. So you can just even come over the bolster. So now we'll just release the ankles and the knees, come forward, relax everything out. And let's just roll over to the side. Let's come off your bolstering and just relax on your back. And just feel this, even if it's a, below conscious level of tingling, just feel free to feel this. Okay, so come on up, please. And before we actually get into the position to do this, I would just like to show it to you. It says, because it's a little hard with all of the angles and to kind of explain what's going to happen. So I may want to show it from a few different angles. So just come on up and watch, and then we'll have plenty of time to do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of twist from both angles of the body, from the upper, it's the same twist, which is interesting. We're going to start with the upper body, and then we're going to go down to the lower body. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to start in the fetal position, yeah, with the knees up, so as much as you can bring them up. And then something maybe for the head, the bolster or a blanket, so we don't have to have this angle of the neck. But if you would like to, that's fine. But I'm just putting something here. And then if you'll notice, my shoulders now here are relatively in line. Yes, one's not dropping back or forward. This is what we want to do. And we want to, I'm over onto my left side. So the left arm is relaxed on the floor. And I'm going to bring my right arm up to the sky. Yep. So don't do it yet, because there's another part to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this arm go back without letting the shoulder go back. Yeah, so the tendency will be to let the shoulder go all the way back. We're going to get there. What I would like you to do, obviously, it can come back a little bit. Use the weight of the arm, but we just want this to, this is such an incredible shoulder opener. You may feel this right through the scapula to the other shoulder, but don't relatively keep the two shoulders in line. And we'll let the arm just hang back like this, yeah? And then what we're going to do is we're going to stay, well, I don't know if you'll be able to hear me, but we'll just try, just kind of walk. I'll talk a little louder. So from this position in the fetal, yes, the arm is here. I haven't let this right shoulder go back. At some point, I'll say, okay, let's relax. If you can keep the legs where they are, we'll relax the shoulder. It's the same twist, but now we put the right shoulder down. The knees are still on the floor, or the knees may come up. Then you can let the knees come up if they need to. But now we have transferred this upper twist, intense for the shoulders, into a lower twist. Yeah? Okay, good. So let's come into fetal position. Yeah, so all curled up. Something for your head if you like. And let's just take that right arm and extend it up. And we're hoping that both shoulders are in relative alignment. It looks like that shoulder's going back. It is a bit. It can go a bit. And then just let this right arm relax back. And don't force it, certainly, you know that, and don't push it. So once you get to a pulling, a tugging in this, especially the right shoulder, just let it hover. You may want to move it this way a little bit, this way a little bit. The thing to avoid is letting the right shoulder go all the way down to the floor. See, this knee just wants to come up, but we'll get there. So just allow this right arm to relax back, and then just feel it wherever you feel it. And I was saying this yesterday, and I would just like to repeat it, is to please do not give in to any idea or thought that you're doing this incorrectly. So it's just a matter of, placing the body in these various positions, and then what's coming to you is for you to explore. So, and oftentimes it's to adjust a little bit, or to modify a bit, or to just simply relax more. The contemplation on what you're getting from the body is open-ended. So if you're feeling something, if you've evoked sensation, you're doing it fine. And especially if it's unfamiliar, just really go slowly, relax, don't go past your edge, just sort of play with this edge. The way that we want to work with discomfort in this practice is move out of our comfort zone very, very incrementally. You can continue to explore this perspective of breathing that I shared with you, by really feeling and connecting with and just learning about the exhale, and not so much the inhale. Just let the inhale be a natural consequence of the exhale. Good. So from here, don't force the knees to stay down on the floor now, but take this right arm and let it slowly drift all the way to the floor, so the right shoulder is touching the floor. The knees can come up as much as they need or want to. Just let that be intuitive. But now we want the right shoulder on the floor. And there's a possibility you'll feel the transition of the twist going from the shoulder, upper spine, mid spine, right down to some place in the lumbar. And another thing that I said yesterday, I said, and I really do mean this, and I strongly recommend not to believe anything that I say. So the presentation of yoga, no matter who you're practicing with, comes from someone's own experience, someone's own evolution and place on the path. So, for all I know, maybe lemons can make you angry, and I'm way off base. So don't, anything that you feel that's vibrating into your senses, this is for your own contemplation. We want to always base our practice on direct experience. And one of the things that we begin to understand, especially when we can really make this kind of yoga our own, because it's so intimate and so unique to everyone's needs, and just the really that the container is the stillness, is the way that we're breathing, the change from moment to moment. So what we start to really apprehend is that just a small amount of concentrated practice is worth volumes and volumes of theory. Good. So you can just begin to bring your knees up. We'll come out of this twist, and let's just let the legs straighten out. And just take a few moments. Either you can rest in stillness, or if you want to bring the knees back up and hug them into the chest, especially if it's a little unusual to be doing this kind of twisting at this point in class. So just kind of shake it out a little bit, sway it out, breathe it out, or just come into stillness and just let it reverberate. And then let's come on over to the fetal position on the right side. So just nice and curled up. Something under the head if you would like. And then let's take the left arm up. And so again, we're trying to keep the shoulders in relative alignment. So we're not going to bring the left shoulder to the floor just yet, but just the weight of the arm. Yeah, and again, be cautious, certainly be intuitive. Just let this, this weight, it's really, we're using the arm as weight. And just let it find a nice place. You can move it around a little bit if you'd like, but moving into the stillness allows the compression to really, penetrate any fascial tightening here from, especially the shoulder girdle. It's just a complicated place. I would also like to suggest that not only are we exploring the depth of the exhalation, but in a way how mysterious it can be, because most of us spend so little time there because the habit of the inhalation is so strong and so habitual. That's what I mean. If I just ask you to breathe, most of us would just take an inhale, and by the time we started to exhale, we would completely forget how deep and how mysterious this exhalation can be. So this is something, this is not meant to offer you a technique. It's just a reminder that whenever you're open to it, to explore this. How does it feel to really, really exhale, and then just let that exhale intuitively bring you back to the inhale. And then oftentimes we just forget about the breath in this practice. So again, I'm not offering this as a pranayama or a technique. Ultimately, what we do is we trust that the more we relax and start to feel this intuitive relationship between the body and the breath, that we'll come closer and closer to what our genuine metabolic needs are. So obviously the body has a very different need to breathe when we're in a slow, relaxed position than when we're walking upstairs. But it's the awareness of the breathing the sensitivity of the breathing and feeling the visceral presence of the breathing that really makes the difference. Good. So let's begin to drop that arm back. So we're going to now get that shoulder onto the floor like we did on the other side. Okay, if the knees come up, you can put something even under them if you would like. So now we're just going into a very a recognizable reclining twist. Shoulder to the floor, doesn't matter how much the knees come up, and we'll rest here for a bit. And to intuitively feel this this value and benefit of your willingness to slow down into your body, just the slowing down. In a way, just the coming home to the body is a tremendous opportunity to explore. It's very interesting to me that we have this sort of collective mandate to stay home, but how many of us are really seeing the opportunity to come home to the body, to slow down into this amazing organism with all of its complexity, and get to know it in a much more intimate, deeper way outside of our usual habits and patterns. So staying home, but staying home in the body, really letting it be okay to slow down and give the left hemisphere, the intellect, the logical part of us a rest, and allow the part of us that understands this intuitive flow of life, how it's really okay to sit with not knowing. It's really okay to come in direct contact with this mysterious sense of being alive. Good. So let's bring the knees back up, and you can again let the legs relax out. We'll take a bit of a rest here, but if you need any intuitive movement, feel free to go to that. I also think it's an opportunity to go, deeper and deeper into this this quality of trusting, to really contemplate what it is that we trust, and then be able to trust it. Uh, it's like, Roni was saying before class, this difference between fixing and healing. So this left hemisphere of the brain, this intellectual part of us, is very, dominant and very concerned with self-improving and with fixing things. And certainly nothing wrong with that. That's a valid part of us that we want to, cultivate and have some intelligence with. But the right hemisphere of the brain is really where we cultivate self-inquiry. This is what yoga is, self-inquiry, where we don't know, where we don't need to fix anything. And this is the realm of healing. So the opportunity is to bring all of your energy inward, to whether it's something you can put into language or imagery, this doesn't matter, but we go as deeply as we can to what it is that we trust. And then we trust it. And the exploration then becomes this lovely dance, and it is a dance between the left hemisphere of logic and self-improvement and the right hemisphere of self-inquiry and healing. Because if we confuse the two, it can be disorienting. And this is why, when we really open up our container and our definition of yoga, it's simply, like I said, when we open, it's just this trusting, this conscious flow with life itself. This conscious union with life itself, recognizing that life is the teacher, whether it's a yoga posture, whether it's an intellectual inquiry, or whether or not the lemons are there. We take all of this in and then just sit with it. And sometimes that's all we need to do, is just to sit quietly and listen. Okay, so let's come on up. So this next thing I'm particularly fond of, I haven't done it in a while. It takes a little bit of setup, but it's a really powerful way to work into the intrinsic muscles of the lower back, the part of the psoas that threads off the lumbar, and the hips as well. So take a little bit of time to really see what I'm doing here. And what I'm suggesting is, if you have the small bolster, the salamander, you can use that. You could also, I rolled up a towel. You could do a towel or a blanket. So this is a little bit higher than this. So obviously you can adjust it if you need or want to. And I also have this little pillow. I don't know, just if you have pillows around or something else. So just, we want a little bit of firmness. And I'll show you what we're going to do. I'll use this small bolster. So what we're going to do with the small bolster is we're going to place it on the right side of the spine. And because it's soft, it can be a little bit on the spine, but not over to the left. So we're not going to place it across like this. Oh, good, you can see me. We're going to place it so it's going to come on to the right part of the lumbar spine. And then when we come over it, we'll pretty much have the buttocks on the floor. You can adjust it. So it's touching a little of the spine, that's fine. Yep. So right side of the spine. And I just want to show you what we're going to do with the legs once we're down there. So we'll come down over this and we'll lie over it, yeah. And then we'll start with the legs out, okay? So what I want you to know is you could stay here with the legs out. And if you bring up the left leg, it's going to release it. It's going to bring the weight to the left and release the tension off of the bolster into the lumbar. Yeah, what I'm going to recommend at some point is to bring up the right leg. This will then pull into that complexity of the hips, the psoas, and the lumbar, and we'll stay here for a while. But if at any time you need to release with both legs or release with the left leg, feel free to do that. Yeah, so we're going to start with the right side. Yeah, okay. So set up that bolstering. And just be careful coming down, depending on what you're using. You may want to adjust it a bit. But once you're down there, let the legs relax out and find a sort of steady place here. Good for the buttocks to be on the floor for the most part. If you bring that left leg up, that right buttocks might come up a little bit, but we're going to try to bring the right leg up anywhere along the inside of that left leg. And yes, I read from Job's body yesterday about the importance of letting all of your oohs and ahs and bodily sounds fly. So please, if you're feeling that, whatever wants to come out of this this body, let it fly. And again, if you're not sure, please do not succumb to the idea you're doing it incorrectly. Just make whatever intuitive adjustments so you're feeling some sense of compression in that right side, isolated to the right side of that lower lumbar area. Don't struggle, don't feel unsafe. If you need to make any adjustments, please do. Good. So if you feel ready to, you can draw that right leg up. Go to the calf, it can go to the knee, it can come up higher, and then a good chance you'll feel the weight of this right leg drawing you a little bit deeper into this very interesting area. And then certainly the simplicity, and I really do encourage us to open to simplicity when we're working with the body in this way, and even the mind. But the simplicity of you beginning to apprehend that conscious union is yoga. This doesn't necessarily mean we have to have conscious union with the sun, the moon, and the stars and the whole cosmos. Although I highly recommend that, we can also have conscious union with any little point or thread of contact that you're feeling in your lower back, or the flow of your breathing, or the sound of the birds, or anything in your environment. We don't have to push it away. We don't have to exclude it. The conscious union simply means that. It simply means relaxing into this open-ended pulsation that there's ultimately nothing that we're separate from. And again, we don't take this as dogma. We don't take this as something to just intellectualize. We start to experience this. Can you really find a boundary between what you are calling yourself and what you're feeling in any area of the body? Can you find a boundary between what you're calling yourself and any thought process that happens to move through the screen of the mind? And just keep in mind, if the intensity becomes distracting or unsafe, you can always straighten the right leg out. And even if it's not unsafe or distracting, sometimes it's nice to give the body this feeling of flow and release. So we don't have to be so strict about it. And if you'd like, you can bring that left leg up, lean you to the left a little bit. So again, just be conscious of what your body needs. Just let it be intuitive. Try not to let that left brain intellectualize and dominate and keep score, but go between, make mental notes as you need, be available to insights, but also allow yourself to just be free in this right part of the hemisphere that is open-ended, is infinite, is expansive, is feminine, and is continually unfolding. Good. So you can now, if you still have that right leg bent and you're compressing in the right lumbar, let's just straighten it out. And I'm going to recommend go ahead and pull that left leg up. Yeah, so the weight of that left leg now kind of pull you off whatever you have, bolster or towel. And then just keep going. Just keep rolling off to the left and curl up a little bit. Pull that right leg up. We'll just soften here for a bit. There's a second part to the right side, but let's just take a little time. Good. So if you're ready, and do take as much time as you need, just let's push yourself up. And we're going to go right back into that same area generally, but from a forward perspective. So let's again let the left leg out, and we'll bring this right leg in. So if you remember, we had this up in the backward bend to the right side. Anatomically speaking, with the left leg out, this is going to bring this to this right side. We don't need to know why right now. So let this right leg be relaxed. Have any of your variety of bolstering ready if you want to support the upper body, but just nice and soft into it. Try not to make it into an aggressive stretch. It's not muscular. Really just feel like, oh yeah, there's that backward bend, there's that tugging. Just be curious and be gentle, and then just sink into it. And do try to really relax into a place of stillness. And I do understand that, in our own environment, there's just these sort of built-in distractions. So don't judge those. If those come about, again, this conscious union with the experience. But again, we're trying to explore this internal landscape, this internal domain. So as much as you can just relax, this is why we want to set the body up so we're in a position, in a depth where you're not even concerned about how long you're here. If the mind starts going, wow, how long will this be? I hope it's over. That's a little too deep. So we want to relax and into the whole presence of the body. So we just forget about the depth, we forget about the shape, and then the body is just revealing whatever it's going to reveal. Relax, feel, listen. Your tissues are breathing. Your brain is filled with light. Your heart is vibrating. We're taking a well-deserved rest from self-improvement and the need to fix. We're cultivating a safe and intelligent space for self-inquiry and to explore what needs we have around opening and supporting whatever healing we need to do. So let us come on up, please. And let's take a rest from here before we go into the left side, since we obviously went back and forward. So you can straighten out that right leg And let's just lie down and we'll take a rest here. And I think it's very valuable. You know, this is really a big part of what yoga is appreciating and beginning to really understand the difference between self-improvement and self-inquiry, especially if we're living in a world where we're prone to get overwhelmed. Getting overwhelmed is not healthy for the system. It's very stressful for the system. It's stressful for the body and the mind, stressful for life, for relationships. And all being overwhelmed simply is taking in too much information. So it's when this left hemisphere just can't get enough and it's just overloading and overloading, and then we get overwhelmed. So to know that you have the option to allow that to rest and to sit in self-inquiry, open-ended, being available to just the visceral sense of life, being available to the breath, being available to the way the wind moves through the trees, the arc of the sun from east to west, the complexity of your digestive area, just in a simple, direct contemplation of what's visceral in the moment, this self-inquiry, open-ended. So we want to have that balance. We want to have that that place where we take in information and process it when we need to. But if we're getting overwhelmed, it just simply means we're taking in too much information in that moment. And we can ease back from that, take a few breaths. It doesn't have to be always in a yoga posture or formally. We can just do that by breathing and noticing that we're alive, noticing that there's information that's embedded within the just the simplicity of life itself. Good. So come on up, please, and let's do the other side of this. So this time, instead of using that little bolster, you're going to probably use what you're going to use. I'm going to use this towel. So this time we're going to be on the left side. So it's the same thing. We want to be from the spine to the left here. I don't know if you can hear me, I'm not facing you. And then we're just going to come over this. So it's, oh yeah, the towel works great too. Just like, oh yeah, over this. And let's begin by letting both legs relax straight out. And then just as a reminder, the options with the legs, eventually we're going to bring this left leg up, but you can keep both legs out if that's more compatible with this compression. You can always bring the right leg up. This will release off that left side a little bit, and then kind of go back and forth between the three positions: straight legs, left leg to get the compression, right leg to release it. And then the truly beautiful aspect of cultivating this self-inquiry is then we get to evolve into an inquiry of just the nature of ourself. This is the coming home that I mentioned earlier. So once we start to open up this space of self-inquiry, the nature of the breath, the nature of the mind, the nature of reality, even the self-inquiry then starts to expand. It then starts to allow us to see that the primary reason we haven't discovered who we are, in addition to we were never told, yes, we were told we were something else, that we become, what's the right word? We become overly focused on objects. So we lose that sense of self because the awareness, the concentration, it gets drawn into objects. So the self-inquiry is a resting back into this sense of self. So it's a very beautiful way to just live our life, just to let life be a practice, that we're not looking for this sense of self. We're not trying to, put our knowledge in all of the right places and then discover it. It's always right there. So the self-inquiry is how to then release this addictive quality towards the focus on objects and rest into this intuitive, simple, and obvious sense of who we are. Gives me shivers just to think about it. So if you still have that left leg up, bent up and in, let's straighten it out. And I'm going to make the same suggestion, is to bring the right leg up. So this will bring us off to that right, release a little bit, and then just keep rolling over to the right. And you just curl on the side, come into a little mild forward bend, and we'll stay here before we go back into the forward bend on the same side. Good. So if you're ready, let's just roll over to that right side. You can push yourself up. So this time we'll extend the right leg out. We'll bring the left leg in. And again, anywhere along here is fine. It's really up to your skeleton and anatomy. Just have the structure as loose as possible, and then nice and soft. It's nice to show it from this side. So we really want to relax, relax, relax. Let the body weight draw you wherever it will, and support yourself with any bolstering that might make it feel safer. So again, we want to be in a position and a depth where we're not concerned with how long we're going to be here. So you can really just feel this this background vibration of the movement of the body. When we really start to appreciate that we're just working into this, connective tissue system. There's many ways to describe it. Fascia, bone, ligament. It's just the tensegrity of the body, the scaffolding and the structure of the body. And we don't really have to understand it, but some of the imagery is so deep because we begin to understand that every single cell in your body, every single cell is connected by this connective tissue. So this is a communication network. This is a connective network that's literally beyond our comprehension. It's just part of this amazing, harmonious design. And so if our attention gets bound up in, too much theory, too much philosophy, too much analysis or diagnosis, then it gets bound up. If our attention gets bound up in these things, the yoga is suggesting just relax, just listen, just simply breathe and appreciate this harmonious design, appreciate this connective tissue that is doing almost everything. It's the intelligence of our processes. And sometimes we just have to sit in awe and sit in great gratitude that we live in this level of intelligence. And certainly this goes back to what I was saying, is what do we trust? How deep can we go into what that even means? What do I trust? And then can I just trust it? So let us come on up from here, please. And let's take a rest. So you can straighten that leg out. Let's lie down and just make yourself comfortable. This is from Stephen Harrison, a lovely little book called The Question to Life's Answers. The question is, so is the spiritual journey like the line from William Blake, a fool who persists in his folly becomes wise? And perhaps it's more that a person who pursues his wisdom becomes a fool. Socrates said that the only true wisdom is to know that we don't know. That's the fact for anybody who has the integrity to look at how his world is constructed. No matter how much we can accumulate, we still don't know. As much information, history, and experience as we can pile up, we still don't know. And that's kind of funny because I thought I didn't know a lot. I was like feeling very good about how little I actually knew. And I just read Donald Hoffman's new book. He's a sort of a neurophysicist, and it's called The Case Against Reality. And he just took me to a whole nother level of how much I don't know. So when you think you don't know, hold on, because there's a whole lot more that you can not know. I highly recommend it. So let us come on up, please. And let's see how we're doing. Oh, good, perfect. So I'm going to show this a couple of ways. And I know that there will be, I'll just sort of show a bunch of variations and modifications for this, because I know some of us will not want to bend the knees at all. Out of either injury and you don't or can't, or out of fear and you won't or can't. The knees are just complicated, and I understand. It took me years to really rehabilitate my knees. But with that in mind, what you're always welcome to do is to, I can come way up on this bolster. So if this feels, out of the question and unsafe, and you think you could never do this, you could always sit on a bolster. So this takes compression off. You could always sit on a bolster and pillow. So you come to a point where you can address this to feel it. So most of it, of the tightening, is dehydration. It's layers leveling in and misaligning. So it's very complex in the knees, but every part of the body is resilient. So if we avoid something, then it just holds that in place. Like I said, they're your knees. You know better than me. But what I'm also suggesting is that you can start to address the knees and then come out and go into the backward bend that we're going to do with the knees. So it doesn't have to be either or, especially you're on your own. You could just be here and come to a place of like, oh yeah, that's like just right on the edge. That's interesting. It's just exploration. Then spend as much time as you'd like, come out, and then join us in the backward bend. But if you're going to be able to bend the knees, let me just show you a few of the variations that we're going to start with. And I understand this position, sometimes people shudder with fear over it, and sometimes they welcome it. So I'll just show you some gradations of it. So if you can sit between the heels with the knees comfortable, then we'll go all the way back. We call this the full saddle. I would go to the forearms first and check in, and then go all the way back into the full position. If the knees come up, don't worry, usually tight quadriceps. If this is almost something you're interested in exploring, you can put either the bolster or you can build something up with blankets to support the lower back, either at this depth, yes, or you could put a bunch of your pillows under this as well. You kind of get the idea to just build it up. So now there's even less compression here. So I'm building a balance between lower body compression and the backward bend itself. Yeah, good. So you could do that. If you're not feeling the need to bend these knees or can't at this level, you want to sit up and just bend the knees. And then the backward bend would be either over this bolster, the way that I'm showing it. So this means you've already bent the knees back or not. So you'll come into this backward bend, or just approximate that with the pillows that you have at hand. So you just kind of have to build something for yourself. Build a little backward bend edifice. So maybe something like this. Well, let me just see if I bent the knees back with this. So you'd probably also need something for your head. So I'm going to take 2 pillows and a towel and see if this approximates what I did with that bolster. So this is just obviously the upper spine. Oh yes, this is good. This works. Yep. So you can approximate what we did with the bolster. Same thing, very deep, interconnected backward bend right from my ankles all the way up to my cervical spine. Very lovely. Or don't bend the knees. Yep, your call. And if you don't have the bolster, just come into the backward bend nice and broad this way. And again, well, you could do with or without the blanket. Yeah, so this is lovely without the blanket. If you need a little support, again, this is just a broad backward bend, even without the knees bent. So any one of those possibilities. And again, the idea is not to come into the edge of your range of motion and struggle and satisfy your ego, how deep you are, how aesthetic it is. It's to put the body in a position that you can just forget about it, that you could stay here for a long time and let the body be receptive to this therapeutic compression. So any gradation of that, and obviously the tricky part is bending the knees back if they're tricky for you. What I was just saying in the last pose about everything being part of this harmonious design, one of the leading edge researchers in this connective tissue, what he says is going on inside of us. It's so beautiful. He says it's what's really going on inside of this human organism is perfect harmony and intelligent chaos. This is why it's so beneficial for us to cultivate and develop our capacity to feel. We're really awakening the intuition, and we're awakening the intelligence of the entire system. Always to be safe, always to stay present and be aware of the sensations, because if we really want to work with discomfort, and I've said this many times, that at least working at the physical, but also the emotional and the psychological, that the healing is embedded in the symptom. So if we want to work with the symptom that can often exhibit discomfort and pain, we have to be safe. If we don't feel safe, then we're working with something else. So always shift, modify, withdraw, relax. And then go into this symptom as deeply as you can, because the symptom is just the messenger. The symptom is just saying, let's go deeper through the symptom to the factors that are really giving rise to whatever it is we're feeling. So just as I was saying that the anger is not outside of us, the symptom is not the root. We want to use the symptom as a creative way, as a way that the body mind is getting our attention, and then allow that tension to permeate the symptom into these more nonlinear factors that are really giving rise to the symptom. It's a beautiful, beautiful study. Okay, so let's come on out of this. We're going to come back to it, hopefully. So if you are with the knees bent back, that's the first thing to address. I always recommend not to try to come up and forward to avoid that. Just the lower back can be tweaky here. So you can just roll to one side and just release one knee first, and then release the other knee. If you don't have the knees back, just put the feet on the floor. And then let's just come to a bit of a rest here. We're going to kind of keep going with this, so we'll keep the rest rather brief, but just to let everything, let's kind of let the chi kind of dissipate out through the body. It's a beautiful study, this being human. Okay, so let's come on up. And I'd like to give you a choice. What we're going to do is we're going to go, after this forward bend, we're going to go into maybe the same backward bend or something a little different. So I'd like to give you a choice on the forward bend. You can either let's bring the left leg in and come into a square pose by either bringing the foot up onto the left calf, or if this is not so accessible, you can put a towel and bring it out front. Yeah, so just to square it, yep, with the right leg front. Or you could bring the soles of the feet together. This is just a little less on the hips and knees, more isolating to the lumbar. But either choice you make will just come forward for a bit. We'll just kind of unwind that backward bend, and then we're going to go back to the backward bend and see what happens. And when the body starts to feel particularly physical, I know that sometimes we can get a bit just challenged just by the intensity and the density of the sensations. It's good to remember that every one of your thoughts has an echo in the body. Every one of your thoughts has an echo in your body. The mystery of the exhale breath is always inviting to be explored. So let's gently come on up from the forward bending. So you can either go back to the same backward bend you were in, that's always nice, or if you need to give the knees a rest and you want to try a variation. So we're going anywhere from just first, opening the knees with any kind of bolstering if we want to do that and just explore that before we go into the backward bend. So you can come up as high as you'd like, or going directly to the backward bend with no support, coming to the forearms, going into the full position, or providing a multitude of bolstering with the knees back so it doesn't go so deep or so contracted. A lot going on here when we bend the knees and come back. So this level of support, and or either you working on the knees and then come to this, or no knees at all, and then just come into the broad back bend with the pillows or the bolster and relax. This is kind of deep, but you get the idea. Every thought has an echo in the body. But also be aware that by contemplating that every thought is an echo in the body, this is just simply a way to disarm this left hemisphere. Because we could just as easily say that every sensation is an echo in the mind. What the real invitation of yoga is just to relax, to let go to the point that we intuitively experience ourselves as an expression of wholeness. So any thoughts or belief systems or ideas or opinions that we're holding that keep us from this feeling and expression of wholeness, we just simply let them go. They're just thoughts. They're just imagery that we've created along the way. The yoga is saying, relax out of that. Give that part of you, that part that works so hard to fix and complete and to move towards, give it a rest and just feel yourself. Nothing to do, nothing to cultivate, nothing to fix. Just recognize that you are your cells, your organs, your mind, your heart, an expression of wholeness. And at some point, this distinction between practice and life and love and meditation and yoga, they're indistinguishable. This is our yoga. So once again, if you have those knees that are bent back, we want to address them first and foremost, please. So it's best just to lean off as much as possible. Release one knee. Try not to come up and forward. Lean the other way. Release the other knee. And then once both knees are out or you roll off the bolster, let's come back to where we began, please, if you will. If you need something more, keep going. but my recommendation is to come back to restorative. So we started that with something to soften the pelvic area, not to compress at all, to bring the legs up and to bring a roll under the neck of your choosing. Just make sure the roll under the neck is really supportive. So sometimes we misunderstand and we just put it in the back of the head, and this just lets the chin dip down and stresses the upper spine in a way that we don't want to truly relax. So we want to pull something under the back of the neck. So the head can either touch the floor, graze it, or be off of it. The chin can go up as much as it needs to support your cervical spine. You can have the legs straight out. So the ankles are over the bolster. You can have it under the knees. And just make sure you feel very cradled in this pelvic area. So it's just very relaxing, especially after that backward bend. And I'm going to just share this poem with you again that I opened with from the Anam Cara by John O'Donohue, just because it is so so devastatingly beautiful. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays and the crutch of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. Another word for slow, conscious, deep breathing is patience. You're invited to stay in this restorative place, or if you would like to sit up and join me in closing, this would be a time. Let us truly allow our love, our life, our practices to become indistinguishable. Namaste.